The sousaphone is a type of tuba designed to be easier to play than the concert tuba while standing or marching. It is widely employed in marching bands and various other musical genres. Designed to fit around the body of the musician and supported by the left shoulder, the sousaphone may be readily played while being carried. It is useful in all types of bands that play outdoors, as it directs the sound forward, unlike a tuba. The instrument is named after American bandmaster and composer John Philip Sousa, who popularized its use in his band. History: the first sousaphone was built by James Welsh Pepper in 1893 at the request of John Philip Sousa, who was dissatisfied with the high copyright license in use by the United States Marine Band. Some sources credit C.G. Conn with its construction, because of the first sousaphone he built later in 1898. Sousa wanted a tuba-like instrument that would send sound upward and over the band, much like a concert tuba. The new instrument had an oversized bell pointing straight up, rather than the directional bell of a normal high copyright lichen. The sousaphone was initially developed as a concert instrument rather than for marching. Sousa wanted the new instrument for the professional band which he started after leaving the Marines, and this band marched only once. Sousa mainly used sousaphones built by C.G. Conn. Although less balanced on a player's body than a he lichen, because of the large spectacular bell high in the air, the sousaphone retained the tuba-like sound by widening the bore and throat of the instrument significantly. Its upright bell led to the instrument being dubbed a raincatcher. Some versions of this design allowed the bell to also rotate forward, projecting the sound to the front of the band. This bell configuration remained the standard for several decades. The instrument proved practical for marching, and by 1908 the United States Marine Band adopted it. Versions with the characteristic extra 90-degree bend making a forward-facing bell were developed in the early 1900s. Early sousaphones had 22-inch diameter bells, with 24-inch bells popular in the 1920s. From the mid-1930s onward, sousaphone bells have been standardized at a diameter of 26 inches. Some larger sousaphones were produced in limited quantities. Construction: the sousaphone is a valved brass instrument with the same tube length and musical range as other tubas. The sousaphone's shape is such that the bell is above the tubist's head and projecting forward. The valves are situated directly in front of the musician slightly above the waist and all of the weight rests on the left shoulder. The bell is normally detachable from the instrument body to facilitate transportation and storage. Except for the instrument's general shape and appearance, the sousaphone is technically very similar to a standard tuba. For simplicity and durability, modern sousaphones almost always use 3 non-compensating piston valves in their construction, in direct contrast to their concert counterparts' large variation in number, type, and orientation. It has been incorrectly noted that the tuba is a conical brass instrument and the sousaphone is a cylindrical brass instrument. Both instruments are actually semi-conical. No valved, brass instrument can be entirely conical, since the middle section containing the valves must be cylindrical. While the degree of bore conicity does affect the timbre of the instrument, much as in a cornet and trumpet, or a euphonium and a trombone, the bore profile of a sousaphone and most tubas is similar. To facilitate making the mouthpiece accessible to players of different height or body shapes, a detachable tubing gooseneck arises from the lead pipe on the upwind side of the valves. 2 slightly angled bits are inserted into the gooseneck, and then the mouthpiece is inserted into the terminal bit. This arrangement may be adjusted in height and yaw angle to place the mouthpiece comfortably at the player's lips. Materials most sousaphones are manufactured from sheet brass, usually yellow or silver, with silver, lacquer, and gold plating options, much like many brass instruments. However, the sousaphone is also commonly seen manufactured from fiberglass, due to its lower cost, greater durability, and significantly lighter weight. Pitch most modern sousaphones are made in the key of BBA unregistered trademark and like tubas the instrument's part is written in concert pitch, not transposed by key for a specific instrument. Although sousaphones have a slightly more restricted range than their concert tuba counterpart, Generally they can all play the same music and usually have parts written in the bass clef and the indicated octave is played. Many older sousaphones were pitched in the key of A in registered trademark, but current production of sousaphones in that key is somewhat limited. Some tuba music has parts written in the treble clef and is transposed in both pitch and key. Varieties. Although most major instrument manufacturers have made, and many continue to make, sousaphones, con and king instruments are generally agreed among players to be the standards against which other sousaphones are judged for tone quality and playability. Perhaps the most highly regarded sousaphone ever built is the .734-inch bore con Model 20K, introduced in the mid-1930s and still in production. Some players, especially those who find the 20K excessively heavy for marching, prefer the slightly smaller .687-inch bore king Model 1250. First made in the late 1920s and also still in production as the Model 2350. Historically, Holton, York and Martin's sousaphones have sometimes been considered fine horns. Unlike with other brass instruments generally, and tubas in particular, some players dislike the sousaphones made by non-American manufacturers. Very large bore sousaphones, with oversized bells as large as 32 inches in diameter, were made by Con 48K, and King and Giant, 1270 and 1271, in the mid-1920s and 1930s, and by Martin, York, and Boescher, but they disappeared from the catalogues during the Depression or at the onset of World War II. Because of their weight and cost, few were made and even fewer survive, especially the 4-valve models. Fiberglass. In recent years, sousaphones have been available made of fiberglass reinforced plastics instead of brass. Today, the fiberglass versions are mainly used for marching, with brass instruments being used for all other situations. Depending on the model, the fiberglass version normally does not have as dark and rich a tone as the brass. Regardless, fiberglass sousaphones are lighter than their brass counterparts and work well for smaller players who could not otherwise play the heavy brass instruments in a marching band. Although the tone of fiberglass models tends to be thinner and less warm, it is considered acceptable by the high schools in which the instrument is most common due to the trade-off in durability, cost, and weight. Additional valves. In the 1920s and 1930s, 4-valved sousaphones were often used by professional players, especially unregistered trademark sousaphones. Today, however, 4-valved bar and registered trademark sousaphones are uncommon and are prized by collectors, especially those made by Con, King, and Holton. Jupiter Company started production of 4-valve BBA unregistered trademark sousaphones in the late 2000s. Criticisms of 4th valve on a sousaphone center around additional weight and increased air resistance. Due to the large size of most sousaphones, the sub-contra register is already covered by alternate resonances, known as false tones. Many beginners are not aware of the false tone resonances on their sousaphones because these notes reside in the sub-contra register, which is nearly impossible for most beginners to access. Some professionals develop a raised embouchure to securely play these notes. This is where either the upper or lower lip takes up most of the mouthpiece area. The embouchure provides almost twice the room for vibration of the single lip. Non-American sousaphones. Asian sousaphones made in China and India are now gaining popularity in the street band market. In Switzerland and southern Germany, Guggen music bands often use these instruments that provide great display and passable intonation. Most are tuned in A and registered trademark. Brahms likewise with older British designs make affordable sousaphones that have broken the A500 barrier. These are mostly in the medium bell size of 23 inches. Chinese brands are mostly reverse-engineered models and quite passable. Special effects. In large marching bands of the United States, the bell is often covered with a tight-fitting cloth, called a sock, which enables the sousaphone section to spell out the school's name, initials, or mascot. The Leland Stanford Junior University Marching Band tar paragraph or paragraph BZ have a tradition of painting the front surface of their sousaphone bells with a variety of images. Sousaphone players are also known to perform the flaming tubas in which flash paper is ignited in the bell, thus making it appear as if the musician is breathing fire. David Silverman developed a propane-powered flaming sousaphone with a trigger valve to control an array of flame jets across the top of the bell of his horn. The Yale Precision Marching Band has made a tradition of setting fire to the tops of the bells of their sousaphones, including in the fall of 1992 when sousaphones served as the candles of a wedding cake formed by the band when two band alumni were married during a half-time show. They also utilize what they refer to as the Attribution, a sousaphone that was disassembled from its coiled format and welded back together on a 12-foot frame to extend straight up from the player's shoulders. College marching bands. John Philip Sousa was a benefactor of the University of Illinois music program and a friend of the university's director of bands Albert Austin Harding. The Marching Agni became the first band to march and play at the same time, and were the first band to use sousaphones on the field. The sousaphone sections of some marching bands have developed specialized performance traditions. The University of California marching band bass section traditionally struts during the band's pre-game show. During the strut the section separates from the rest of the band, circles the north goalpost, and rejoins the band to complete the script cal. The University of Southern California Trojan marching band sousaphones played John Williams' Imperial March from Star Wars when crossing streets on their way to and from performances on the USC campus. When the Ohio State University marching band performs its traditional script Ohio formation, a senior sousaphone player dots the I. The Fightin' Texas Aggie Band sousaphone section execute a distinct two-step and four-step counter march during marching performances. During halftime performances this is accompanied by a huh from the crowd. The University of Delaware Fightin' Blue Hen marching band has several traditions involving sousaphone players. During pre-game, they branch off from the rest of the band. From here, the sousaphone players run in a snake around the field jumping to drumline cadence. At most pre-games they act out a skit as well. At post-game, In My Life by the Beatles is played featuring a sousaphone solo while the band sings. After every pre-game show at Florida State University when the section run in a circle around the Seminole head on the field with the head drum major in the center of the circle. This is called flushing the field, hence the nickname, Flush. The Marching Virginians of Virginia Tech perform a version of the Hokey Pokey featuring the sousaphone section putting their sousaphones in, taking their sousaphones out, putting their sousaphones in, and shaking them all about followed by an all-sousaphone kick line. The University of Toledo sousaphone line march off the field in a snake line after home games and performs the song Sonic Boom, when the rest of the band meets back with them. For the last 20 years the University of Idaho Vandals marching band sousaphone section all wear long skirts that were originally used by the 1948 University Women's Chorus. University of Idaho Vandals sousaphone section. Musical genres. The sousaphone is an important fixture of the New Orleans brass band tradition, and is still used in groups such as the Dirty Dozen Brass Band by Kirk Joseph. Soul Rebels Brass Band from New Orleans features sousaphone player Edward Lee, Jr. Sinaloa, a state of Mexico, has a type of music called banda Sinaloense, and the sousaphone is used there as a tuba. Damon Tuba Gooding Jr. Bryson from The Roots plays a sousaphone on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. Nat McIntosh is the sousaphone player and co-founder of Youngblood Brass Band, who play a mixture of traditional New Orleans-style brass band music and hip-hop. The Lemon Bucket Orchestra, a Canadian self-described Balkan klezmer gypsy punk super party band, features a sousaphone as one of their instruments. Red Barat, a Brooklyn-based Holland brass band that fuses North Indian bhangra with hip-hop, go-go and jazz music, features John Altieri on sousaphone. Notable players, Warren G. Harding, the 29th President of the United States, was a sousaphone player. See also, cornu, an ancient Roman brass instrument that curved around the player's body. References. External links, Virginia Tech Music Dictionary, sousaphone, all the instruments, sousaphone, sousaphone history.